The sound of metal chains rattling against wet wood still echoes in my head. That night, the tow truck dragged Karen's gleaming white boat off the shoreline while the whole neighborhood stood frozen, watching the queen lose her crown in real time. Hours earlier, she'd shoved a paper in my face. Eviction notice in bold letters, demanding I dismantle the dock I built with my own hands. And now, there I was, coffee in hand, steady as stone, while her pride and joy was hauled away like some abandoned wreck. That was the moment everything shifted. But to understand how we got there, you've got to hear the whole story from the start. I'm Michael Harris, 58 years old, a construction man who spent 3 decades busting his back on job sites, saving every dime I could, raising kids who've since flown the nest. And when the dust finally settled, I bought myself a modest little home by Silverwood Lake. It wasn't a mansion, not even close, but it was mine. And the dock I built out back, that was my sanctuary. Every plank soaked in sweat, every nail hammered with patience. To me, it wasn't just lumber stretching into the water. It was freedom. Mornings with coffee in the fog, evenings teaching my grandson how to tie knots, quiet nights dangling my legs over the ripples. Peace finally had an address. Then came Karen Whitmore. If you've never met a self-appointed tyrant with a clipboard, count yourself lucky. She was president of the HOA, mid-40s, blonde bob cut, lipstick like a stop sign, and an ego that could fill the lake twice over. She strutted around like the shoreline belonged to her, heels clicking on gravel, clipboard clutched like a sheriff's badge. Her house towered over the rest, sterile and expensive. But what she really worshipped was that oversized yacht-looking boat gleaming out front. Every weekend she paraded it around like the lake was Miami Beach. And wouldn't you know it, she always parked the damn thing a little too close to my dock, like even her fiberglass toy had to invade my space. The first real blow landed one morning when she stormed down in a wide-brimmed sun hat, waving papers at me. "Mr. Harris," she barked, shoving them under my nose, "you have 30 days to remove this unauthorized structure, or fines will apply." I stared at her like she'd lost her mind. That dock had county permits stamped, signed, inspected, filed neatly in my desk. I said, calm as I could, "Karen, this is fully legal, county approved." She tilted her head with that smug smile. "The HOA's standards are higher than the county's. We can't have eyesores lowering property values." I almost laughed. Her yacht was worth more than half the houses in the subdivision, and she was lecturing me about aesthetics. That was the first time I realized facts didn't matter to her. Control did. Soon, the poison started spreading. Karen whispering at the mailbox, neighbors glancing at me sideways, like maybe I was the stubborn old man dragging down the neighborhood. My buddy Tom next door muttered, "Hang in there," when she wasn't around. But most folks just stayed quiet. And Karen thrived on that silence. Letters started piling in my mailbox, violation after violation. One day it was improper lawn edging. Next it was unapproved outdoor furniture. Then dock not in compliance. I half expected one accusing me of breathing too loud. Each paper stamped with her smug little signature, each fine stacking higher. It was death by paperwork, and she loved every second. And she didn't stop at letters. That boat of hers became her floating throne. More than once, I found it tied so close I couldn't launch my kayak without scraping against it. One Saturday morning, I shouted up, "Karen, mind giving me a little room here?" She raised her mimosa, laughed, and called back, "It's a community lake, Michael. Don't like it." Take it up with the HOA. Her laughter carried across the water like nails on a chalkboard. And then came the sheriff's cruiser. Anonymous tip about an unsafe dock. My stomach dropped, but the deputy stomped across the planks, bounced a little, and said, "This dock's sturdier than most county bridges. Sorry to waste your time." I didn't even ask who called it in. I already knew. I tried fighting it with reason once, dragging my folder of permits to a meeting, laying them on the table. Karen didn't even glance at the papers. She tapped her pen against the clipboard and said, "Legal doesn't always mean compliant." That's when the weight started crushing me. One night, I sat on the dock alone, sunset bleeding into the water. And for the first time I felt it, that urge to give up. My mind whispered, maybe she's right. Maybe it isn't worth the stress. Maybe I should tear it down and just live quiet. I pictured neighbors secretly glad if I caved, Karen's smirk stretching wider. I gripped the edge of the dock so hard my knuckles went white. For a moment, I actually believed I was the problem. But then I looked at the wood beneath me, each plank a memory, each nail a piece of myself. This wasn't just a dock. It was my proof that I had finally carved out peace after decades of hard work. Giving it up meant giving up myself. That's when something hardened inside me. I wasn't going to let her take it. Not for free. So I started digging. Every HOA has a bylaws binder, thick with rules no one reads. One sentence snagged me. All watercraft must be registered with the HOA and county. Curiosity sparked. What if, just what if, her precious boat wasn't in the system? Next morning, I drove to the county clerk's office, fluorescent lights buzzing, clerks tapping at keyboards. Gave them Karen's address. They searched, frowned, shook their head. No record under that name. My jaw almost hit the floor. I pressed, and the clerk spun the screen toward me. Blank. No registration. Karen. Of all people. Caught in her own trap. But I didn't stop there. Flipped through minutes of old HOA meetings. Her dock extension? Never approved. Not once. Then Bob from down the road leaned in one evening, voice low. "Michael, you didn't hear it from me, but Karen's been tying her boat on HOA-owned shoreline, against the rules." It was like dominoes falling. Unregistered boat. Unauthorized dock. Misuse of association property. The woman who painted me as a violator was drowning in her own violations. With every photo I snapped, every note I filed, the fear drained out of me. I took it all to Marcy, a sharp property lawyer. She flipped through the stack, raised an eyebrow, and said, "She's threatening you with fines while she's in violation herself? Michael, that's actionable. And the HOA bylaws? They allow impoundment of unregistered vessels. You could request enforcement." My grin nearly split my face. The same woman who vowed to strip me of my dock? I now had the power to strip her of her boat. Still, I knew bullies don't go down easy. Karen doubled down, hand delivering a final eviction notice stuck between my porch boards. Eviction, like my dock was some squatter hiding out by the water. Then came the emergency HOA session, where she strutted in a red blazer, voice booming about my unsafe, unsightly dock, dragging down property values. She slammed papers on the podium, demanded immediate legal action. Some neighbors clapped. Others looked uneasy. I sat in the back, calm, binder on my lap like a loaded gun. When she finally hissed, "If we allow this, tomorrow it'll be chain link fences, broken down cars, chaos." I stood, slow, deliberate, walked to the front. "Funny you should mention rules," I said, flipping my binder open, because I've been reading them very carefully. Gasps rippled when I showed photos of her dock extension, never approved. County record proving her boat unregistered. Pictures of it tied illegally on HOA property. Karen's face flushed red to match her blazer. She sputtered, called it a distraction. But the neighbors leaned forward, whispering. Her loyalists shifted in their seats. The Queen's armor was cracking. And then came the knock on the door. 2 men in polo shirts, clipboards in hand. "Excuse us, we're here for a boat impound." The room went silent. Karen shot up, shrieking, "You can't! That's my property!" The taller man held up paperwork. "Unregistered vessel, ma'am. HOA Enforcement Authority." She spun toward me, mascara smudging. "You did this!" I raised my coffee cup, took a slow sip, and said, "Rules matter, Karen, to everyone." Neighbors spilled outside as the tow crew marched to the shore. Karen stumbled after them, heels sinking in the grass, screaming, pleading, throwing herself in front of the truck. But it was no use. They hitched her pride and joy, her floating throne, and dragged it down the road. Some neighbors laughed out loud. Bob muttered, "About damn time." I just stood on my dock, watching the taillights fade, whispering to myself. She tried to evict me. But tonight, it's her boat that's homeless. The fallout was fast. For weeks she stormed around, waving papers, trying to claw back power. But the spell was broken. Without her boat, without her aura of invincibility. She was just another neighbor shouting into the wind. The board called for a vote of no confidence. People who once nodded along found their spines. She was out, stripped of her title, left with fines and violations of her own to answer for. I heard later she tried to fight it in court. But the law doesn't bend forever. The cracks she built her throne on finally swallowed her whole. Me! Life went back to quiet. The dock still stands, stronger than ever. Some evenings I sit there with coffee. The lake calm again, no yacht bobbing like a guard dog nearby. Sometimes neighbors wave. Freer now, lighter. Karen still walks by once in a while, head down, clipboard gone. Nobody listens when she speaks. That silence says more than any applause ever could. And me? I don't feel triumphant. Not really. Just steady, knowing bullies only win until someone calls their bluff. The lesson's simple. Power built on fear collapses the moment fear disappears. And that's what happened at Silverwood Lake. Remember this, on HOA Drama Unfolded. Bullies don't get the last word.